Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life with Shenita. I am Shenita Connolly, your host for this evening. I am delighted that you have decided to join us for this conversation about a widow's journey of grief. She's an author, an amazing young woman who's an entrepreneur, um, who also holds down a full-time job, is a mom. So I can't wait for you guys to meet Miss Siobhan Noelle Fleming. Um, but I want to ask you all to like and share this broadcast. I know the importance of the conversations and how important it is for others to hear them. So if you all would like and share the broadcast, I would be delighted and so grateful. Thank you again for joining us for tonight's topic, good grief. So without further delay, I am going to bring in our special guest, Miss Siobhan Noelle Fleming. Good evening, Miss Fleming.
Good evening. How are you, Miss Shenita?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Awesome. Thank
You
you so
look,
much for having me. I'm excited.
you're welcome. I am delighted to have you. You're looking awesome in your blue. And
Thank you.
yes, and so I know your story, others to know your story and to get to know you a little bit. So I'd like for you to introduce yourself to the audience.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Well, my name is Siobhan Noelle Fleming, affectionately referred to as Siobhan Noelle or Bonnie in the city.
Mhm.
And I do a wide genre of different things. First and foremost, I'm an author. I wrote a book to share my personal story, a memoir, Good Grief, viewing life's tribulations through an optimistic lens. And that's what we're going to kind of highlight tonight. And I'm also a public speaker. I'm also an advocate for human trafficking. And also, I am a radio personality. And as you mentioned, I also have a 9 to 5. I do commercial leasing at one of the largest retail properties on the south side of Atlanta.
Awesome. And we can't forget about the radio show.
Yes.
So you're a radio show host as well, right?
I am, yes, on Hits 92.3, Bonnie in the City.
So I'm not sure how you find all the time to do all that you do. Just like I hear people tell me the same thing, but we get it done. So um,
Absolutely, yes.
kudos to you. So for an icebreaker, as the fashion diva that you are, um, what's the most embarrassing fashion trend that you participated in your life?
Well, I will say in regards to clothing, I can be somewhat conservative, but I like to have fun with hairstyles.
Mhm.
So I'm an 80s baby. I grew up in the 90s, and one style that I kind of just flocked to was I don't know if it came with TLC's era or whatnot, but it was that short ponytail that was fanned out. That was my thing. And as you can see, I haven't drifted much further from ponytails.
That is too cute. Yes, because I know that I think I first saw you on Facebook with your retail store before your husband passed, if
Yeah.
I'm not mistaken.
Well, it was actually right after my husband passed, and
Okay.
I did my grand opening on his birthday in his
Okay.
honor. But yes, so I own a woman's boutique that I somewhat still dabble in online, but I did previously have a storefront. It was called Blue Boutique and Studio, and it
Mhm.
was off of Highway 85 in Jonesboro, Georgia.
Yep, that blue. That blue stands out.
Yes.
It's pretty and pretty. So let's talk about your book, you being an author, in your book titled Good Grief.
Yes.
And what inspired you to write this particular book?
Well, in a short time frame, approximately 5 years, I had experienced a very large amount of grief. And it was to me not the norm, or, I was like, this is a wow factor, things that make you say good grief.
Hmm.
And I was like, well, I felt a few things. One, that I didn't go through all those things to keep to myself. Two, if there's someone out there that is going through something similar, I hope that it can help. But also, it's therapeutic to share my story as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I totally agree. Both of us being widows, um, and going through the loss, particularly of our spouses,
Yes,
and being a inspiration to others, or a pillar of strength to others as they are going through, is important to me as well. So sharing is caring. So,
absolutely,
so
yes.
thank you for caring.
Thank you.
Yes. So tell us a little bit more about the book.
Well, again, it's called Good Grief, subtitled Viewing Life's Tribulations Through an Optimistic Lens. And so basically, it's what I call my grief timeline. In 2015, I lost my mother to colorectal cancer. She had an 8-year battle with it, and that was my first loss. So to not only be my first loss, but be someone so close to me. And then 2016, I experienced grief through the form of a horrendous car accident. A lady ran a red light and literally almost killed me. They had to pry me out of my vehicle. I was taken to a local hospital and they literally couldn't do anything for me. And so, for those of you that are from Atlanta, know that Grady is our trauma headquarters. So, I was transported to Grady Memorial Hospital here in Atlanta. And I underwent 3 major surgeries. Now have a metal plate in my hip, and 8 months, almost a year total, to learn how to walk again. 8 months of rehab and physical therapy. So
Wow.
that was 2016. 2017, we thought that was a lot already right there, because I spent all of 2017 learning how to walk again.
Hmm.
So after all that, we was like, okay, we need a woosah, if you will. So my family and I went on vacation in 2018. Um, and we went out of the country to Bermuda. And my second day there, my husband passes away. Yeah, and
Second, you said the
so
second day in Bermuda.
yes,
Bermuda.
ma'am. Yes. So it was me, my husband, my son, who at the time was 10 years old, and then also my late grandmother. At that time, she was 89 years old. And so a sudden passing, at that point, with the first passing, people ask all the time, or they say which one could be easier, whether a sudden passing or if you know the person that you're losing that person. I can't say for certain one was easier than the other, to be quite honest. I think the second time I was in shock for a good period of time, because I mean, no one knows the day of the hour. We say that all the time, but to be on vacation out of the country, that's the last thing that you expect or think to happen.
Hmm.
And so I basically rode back on the plane to Atlanta with my husband's remains in my life. And then the following year, I lost my grandfather, and then here recently, my grandmother who raised
Wow.
me.
Good
Yeah,
grief.
good grief. Yeah.
Yes. That I cannot even imagine. My husband Pat had a heart attack in front of me, which was a shocker. And so I understand the shock of it all. Your twist was heart attack and death
Was
immediately.
was that?
I say my husband had a heart attack and
Yeah.
was on the respirator for 3 weeks, whereas
Oh,
your husband, heart attack?
no, ma'am. It was actually was considered dry drowning. I had never
Really?
heard of that before in my life until
I've heard of
in,
it. I've heard of it.
we were on the beach when he passed. So he had pre-existing conditions, diabetes, congestive heart failure, kidney failure, so a lot of other pre-existing conditions. One thing that specifically that tied to, or I say two things really, that tied to that day, his diabetes resulted in a toe amputation. So a lot of diabetic people have a lot of issues with their feet. So at the very beginning of our marriage, again, so we were so young, in our 20s, he underwent a toe amputation. And then, so being at the beach in the sand with that condition, he was already a little wobbly walking in the sand. But then also, he was having, you see people with a lot of swelling on their legs and feet
Hmm.
from fluid retention. So he already had a lot of fluid on his lungs. And when we were in the water, not doing anything robust, any activity, anything like that, we were literally just enjoying the water, maybe at about waist deep. A wave came and he tumbled and he went under. He got back up and walked and talked and everything after that. However, he intook additional water. And when he went in, and I could tell it frightened him. And so, I reached out and was like, "Are you okay?" And he seemed fine. And but that additional water was too much. So a few minutes later, maybe 5 minutes or so, he was saying, "Well, I'm having a hard time breathing. I think I should get out of the water." We still at that time didn't think it was a state of an emergency because my husband was a very big guy. So him struggling with breathing wasn't necessarily something that we was like alarmed by. It was more or less, okay, take your time, catch your breath type thing.
Hmm.
Shortly after that, it literally went from 0 to 100. He started to slide back in the water. I had to get behind him and brace him. Some other tourists came over and noticed that we needed help. They helped me get him out of the water. I had my son, because he was right there with us, my 10-year-old. He went and got the lifeguards, and by the time they got down to us, again, I hadn't heard of dry drowning before, so I didn't really know what to explain or what was going on. But I knew to tell them that he couldn't breathe, and so they started to administer CPR. He was at this time slipping out of consciousness, and it's so interesting the day that the time that we live in now. No one called 911, but everybody had their phones out filming and going live on Facebook. Yes.
Are you serious?
And so I'm looking in the crowd because by this time we have a crowd of people around us, and I'm asking, I'm hysterical. Did someone call 911? And no one had. And so I asked, please call 911. And then it took the ambulance almost 45 minutes to get there. And by that time, my husband had left.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. I can only imagine what that experience was like. And to lose your soulmate, to lose your life partner in that way, and people standing around versus helping, but filming the whole incident. Yeah,
Yes.
that had to be extremely difficult.
Right. Yeah.
Wow. And so traveling back from Bermuda to the United States with your husband's remains in your lap, what was that like for you?
Well, unfortunately, that's the second time I've done that. The other was the exact opposite trip, leaving Atlanta to Bermuda, because I took my mother's cremation. And here's the kicker: to spread over the same exact beach that my husband passed. So that's the second time that I've done that. But again, coming from a perspective of an unexpected passing, uh, when I tell you I was literally had a sense. At first, I experienced denial because people talk about the 5 stages of grief.
Hmm.
During the time, I literally was experiencing denial. I still was, even though it was obvious that my husband had passed, I was still very hateful. We got to get to the hospital, get him in the ambulance. Come on, guys. I'm brushing sand out of his eyes just for this time that, okay, he may wake up. And it
Hmm.
was that sense of denial. But on the plane, I was in shock. I was just literally kind of sitting there, nothing to say. I didn't cry, but I didn't talk. I was literally, and interestingly enough, the same flight crew that took us there worked the flight coming back, so they remembered us and knew my husband. They were trying to give me alcohol and wine. I was like, I don't want anything to drink. I just wanted to be quiet and sit. Like that was it.
Hmm. Wow.
Yeah.
And 2018, so here we are 3 years later. What is life like for you?
Well, that's what I like to portray to people that, through all of that, God has never left or forsaken me. He has truly been there through each of these encounters and continues to walk with me every step of the way.
Mhm.
Um, when my husband passed, I was 36 years old and I moved right out of my mother's house into being a married woman. And so this is actually my first time even living alone, taking care of home by myself, paying
Mhm.
all the bills, all that, like grown, grown. You know what I mean?
I do know. I do.
And me and my son and I haven't wanted for anything. God has truly blessed us.
Mhm.
The only real thing that I had to really do was pull him out of the public school, the private school that he was in, because he was in a military academy, and with the tuition and boarding collectively, it was very expensive.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that was really the only major lifestyle change that we've had to make. But other than that, God has kept me financially, emotionally, physically. I, I really can't explain it. I have a peace over me that I can say comes from nowhere but God. Through all
Yes.
that, I haven't lost my mind. I haven't slipped into a depression. I haven't, things that you would think rightfully so. Through all of that,
Mhm.
God has truly kept me. He
Yes.
has.
Yes. And you're like an
Yes.
array of sunshine.
Yes. Yes.
So I would like for you kind of mentioned the process of writing your book was therapeutic. Was there anything else that you learned from that particular process? Because I think you wrote that book after you lost your husband. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So anything else that you learned from that project? I know it was
Well,
therapeutic, but anything specific about yourself?
I did. This may sound cliche, but it's so real to me. I learned that you can truly do anything. Never in a million years did I anticipate, expect, or plan to be a published author.
Mhm.
And when I tell you, it just came seamlessly.
Mhm.
I knew that I had to share my story, and that was something that I always would share with my mom before she passed. I would always say, Mom, when you make it through this, we're going to go on tour and tell the world your story. And when she passed, I knew that I had to carry that torch and
Mhm.
share her story. At that time, I didn't know it was to be continued.
Mhm.
And so then experiencing what I've experienced, I started public speaking and writing my book. And, again, I mean, I'm just a little old lady from Jonesboro, Georgia. I don't have any formal training or even degree or anything that warrants me being able to be a published author or a speaker that has spoken in front of crowds from 5 to 10 people to the platforms of Clark Atlanta University and mega churches, and to fill a whole crowd of people that came to see little old me is humbling, and it is God's grace, and it just reminds me that I can do all things through Him.
Yes. And we really are the examples of that. We
Yeah,
really are when we're courageous enough to walk it out, to pick up
yeah,
the pen or to write the business plan or to sign the contract for the building lease. We are the example. We are the hope for others that whatever it is, we can do it and you can get through the challenges that life brings because there are going to be challenges on this journey,
absolutely,
period,
yes,
point blank. Some expected, some unexpected.
right,
And so
yes,
I just echo what you said about you can do it. I too, being an author of 2 books, never thought of that. But when you're pushed into purpose, and God tells you to do something, you either are going to obey or disobey. And
right,
so it's really up to the individual. And I want to encourage anyone out there to be obedient to
yeah,
whatever that is you've been instructed to do, because
exactly,
someone is waiting for you to make that move on the chessboard so that they can make the next move on the chessboard of life.
Yes, and I always pray and ask God to order my steps. And it's interesting how when He has a purpose or an assignment for you, that He's expecting you to follow through, and He'll be right there with you every step of the way. And I hear people that say when they wanted to write or whatnot that they have experienced procrastination and things like that, and I did as well.
Mhm.
But God set me down. So for the first time in my life, I got called for jury duty. And I never got chosen for a case or anything to that nature, but I sat in the waiting room in Clayton County Courthouse for a week. And I took my laptop every day. And while everybody's laughing and socializing, I sat off in the cut in the corner and I wrote my entire book in jury duty for 1 week.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
That's inspiration.
Thank
Find
you.
the time, make the time
Yeah,
to do what it is that you're called to do, because
absolutely.
yeah, it will bless other people. What else, through that process of writing, surprised you about yourself?
Well, just reliving my story, it wasn't to the point that it was too emotional for me to write. It literally inspired me as well because it just made me feel like, God, I see you. Like, I mean, the way He carried me through, and again, the subtitle, Viewing Life's Tribulations Through an Optimistic Lens. So, again, just like I never, you know, imagined of being a published author, I never thought of even pursuing any entrepreneurial endeavors. It was literally God and He putting me on an assignment. And so when my mother got terminally ill, I knew that I couldn't sit at someone's 9 to 5 while she was going through all the treatments, the hours of radiation, the hours of chemotherapy, surgery after surgery. I knew that I needed to be there to support my mother. And I was grateful for a husband that not only trusted me but supported my dream and my desire to do that, not knowing how long that was going to be, that I would be out of work or anything like that. So, as we talked about it and prayed about it, I went and spoke to my employer at the time, and they gave me a hard no in regards to being able to telecommute, work from home, part time, reduce my hours. So I gave a 2 weeks notice. I didn't have a plan, just a prayer. And I started my first business, Amazing Business Concepts, as a virtual assistant, wondering if maybe I could just supplement my income. And when I tell you the business fell in my lap, and it went less than 6 months from me just being a virtual assistant with minimal assignments to me staffing people's full administrative support, for me subcontracting for government entities. I was able to work on the team that implemented the first community improvement district here in Clayton County. I was actually on the team that, if you know the Camp Creek area, the new exit, how when you get off the exit, I was
Mhm.
on the committee that helped create the diamond diversion on Camp Creek.
Awesome.
Again, little me, no economic development, infrastructure background, none of that. It's just
Mhm.
God ordering my steps and using me and making sure that my family didn't want for nothing as I honored my mother.
And you being willing
Yes,
to follow those instructions.
yes, being
Yes.
obedient, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's amazing how parallel our stories are in so many ways. The optimistic piece, um, when I started in 2016 with my business, and Lee Ashby and I got together. That was one of the hashtags that we came up with, and so I live my life literally in an optimistic way every day,
Amen.
every
Beautiful.
every day. And that's important, and I hope that someone out there that's watching this broadcast will think about that perspective and adopt that for themselves.
Right. Yes.
you know um, that we are the example of hope for others. So also, um, life as a widow. I know I share my life a lot. As a widow, I talk about it. I work with widows. I am walking through the journey with new recent widows as we speak. Um, Tell us, or the audience, what that has been like for you, um, as a widow, dating, um, parenting, adulting. What is that like for you?
Well, it's been quite a journey to say the least. And it's so interesting again how I feel like I can have this plan for my life and God has something completely different in store. I was someone that always said I would never be a single mother. And I say never, never
Never
say
say never.
never,
That's
because
right.
here I am. I am that. I am a single mother, and I don't put any negative, connotation on it. I'm a proud single mother, and I feel like I carry, and my son, I say we carry my late husband's legacy. Just another tidbit of our story. I'm actually an adoptive mother. So I always share with my son that you don't have to be blood to be family.
Hmm.
Through adoption and through marriage, that makes us just as family. And I always say, and that's law through adoption and marriage.
Hmm.
We both proudly carry my husband's last name in his honor and carry his legacy. It's been days that I didn't think I could do it. I didn't think I could make it. But I know where my help comes, and I pray. I'm a praying woman. If I have to stop in the middle of work, if I have to stop in the middle of whatever, and if I just need to pray, I do that. And I'm not ashamed of that by any means. And I have to give God all the glory because there's really no other way. Now, I just started dating again, and when I tell you it's been so interesting, my husband really set the bar. He set the bar. When I tell you, he was an awesome husband. So I know whatever man comes in my life, he's got to be one heck of a man. No half stepping.
Not don't have no time for it.
Yes, yes, and
Mm.
it's been bumpy, it's been rough, but it's been a joy, it's been a pleasure, it's been all of those things tied up into one. And we're reaching another milestone, my son and I, and this is probably something minor to most, but it was a huge deal to me because it was something that my late husband and I tried for years. And when I tell you it was one thing after another that stopped us, whether it was finances, then him getting sick and losing his job, we had to file bankruptcy,
Mhm.
credit, student loans prohibited us, one thing after another. So I'm excited that in 2 weeks I'll be closing on my first home, a new construction home that's everything that I wanted and more than I even thought I could even get approved for. And it's for me and Robbie, but it's for my husband, it's for my mommy, it's for us.
Congratulations. I know
Thank
you are
you.
truly excited. That's a
I
great
am.
feeling, um, to own a home, to be able to do it on your own.
Yeah.
Um, I've been on that journey for 21 years, and so it's something to be proud of.
I'm proud. I'm
Yeah.
excited. I'm grateful.
Yes.
And to be honest, because it's not always peaches and cream. And when my husband passed and all the things that, you know, kept us back then with us together from getting home ownership, when he passed, I gave up. I was like, we couldn't do it together. Surely I can't do it alone. But again, God shows up and shows out and puts people in your life and they encourage you and get you to where you need to be. And I mean, I'm getting a house and a new construction built from the ground up, and I'm so grateful. I have to give thanks to God he for even getting us here.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
And it's funny you say you gave up on
I
that
do.
plan because you didn't think that it was possible because it wasn't possible for you and your husband to do together. But
Yeah,
it's more than possible now for you solo. So it was meant to be in this time of your life.
it wasn't time before. It's
Hmm.
time now.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I second guess so many things that okay, I don't make enough money. I don't do this. My credit's not strong enough. All those things have proven to be just fine, and to be getting financed for almost double the I thought I even wanted.
Mhm.
And everything has just been seamless. It really has.
That's wonderful. And you said something that I would like to highlight. You said God will put people in your life to encourage you.
Yes,
And so there was someone that was strategically placed in your life to get you to this place to be confident enough to sign the papers or to make the call, to get prepared or get yourself in place to be approved. You had
absolutely.
to take
Yes.
the first step to get it
Because
done.
it's so interesting. Before my entrepreneurial endeavors, I worked in real estate for almost 10 years. So when I tell you I know probably thousands of realtors, but interestingly enough, no one had ever asked me what my real estate goals were. Siobhan, are you ready to buy? Nothing ever. And so a lady that I just met came in my life, a licensed realtor, and not only walked me through, she didn't throw me in a credit repair class. She walked me through every step, and I went from being unqualified to with multiple denials to being qualified with multiple pre-approvals in less than a year.
That's a beautiful
She took
story.
my hand and she didn't throw me away because I wasn't qualified and say, call me in the year when you get qualified.
Mhm.
She took my hand and walked me through, and here
To
we
make
are
sure
today.
that you got ready.
Yes,
So within that year, you did everything that was necessary.
right.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah, and that's an awesome individual, whoever she is.
absolutely.
Kudos to her
Yes.
for assisting you on that journey. So tell us a little bit about what you're working on now. I know that you are full time employee. You're still doing your entrepreneurial endeavors. What else keeps you busy other than
Well,
being a mom?
I'm also a radio personality on Hits 92.3.
Mhm,
I actually have two shows that airs Sunday nights and Friday nights.
mhm,
My Sunday night show is going 2 years strong. So shout out to my Hits family. They're amazing. Another cliche, but I didn't aspire to get into media or radio, but I've literally gotten into it and hit the ground running. I the owner and I actually were or not were our childhood friends. So we went to middle school together. She told me that she was opening a radio station, and at the time I still was working in my boutique. And I knew that as a small business owner, we needed a platform to reach the mass and be able to, get the word out about what we had going on.
mhm.
So at that time, I was, other than her husband, I was the very first show on her station. So Bonnie and the City was born. And when I tell you it's taken me places to celebrity interviews, but my favorite are my community ones. I love my community. I grew up in Jonesboro. I opened my first business in Jonesboro, my first brick and mortar in Jonesboro. And so it's home for me. I went to Jonesboro High School. So
Mhm.
this is just home for me, and I love my community. And so to be able to provide media for the small, whatever business owner, mom and pop,
Mhm.
politician, elected official, someone running for office, whoever needs a voice, to be able to provide that is an amazing thing. And
That's
so I enjoy that. I've been able to provide media coverage for events such as the Chairman Turner's International Ball to some other smaller local events and things of that nature. I've been able to sit down with the city manager of Jonesboro, Mr. Clark, and so many other wonderful people right here in our community. And it's been amazing. They say if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life. And so sometimes it's amazing to me that I get paid to do this. Like, this is so amazing, and I have a blast.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I remember first seeing you buzzing around on Facebook doing all sorts of things with your husband. And then I
Mhm.
remember when your husband passed and I reached out to you to connect with you on that journey and watched you with your boutique and watched you with the Hits 92 and watched you share the journey with your son and the journey with your grandmother. It's been definitely a breath of fresh air to see you buzzing around
Mhm.
beyond the challenges that you faced and facing them head on and choosing to live a vibrant life.
Oh, thank
And
you.
that's one of my goals, is to help people, because we can't avoid the obstacles, we can't avoid the challenges, but we can choose to live a vibrant life each and every day. And
Absolutely.
so you are doing just that. And so I'm
Thank
sure many lives have been impacted on Hits 92, on Facebook, in your personal life, as well. And so kudos to you as you continue your journey and to inspire others.
thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, yes. And is there anything you want to tell us about the podcast, and particularly maybe where they can join in each Sunday and Friday?
Sure,
Um,
absolutely. So they can tune in by either streaming via the website, www.hits923atl.com, or you can also download the Hits app on any device, your Android, Apple, virtual assistant, any of those devices, your tablets, and you can download and stream that way. You can also find me on Bonnie in the City on all platforms, as well as my website to for scheduling, to book to come on, or just to simply know when to tune in and things of that nature. And I'm enjoying the ride. I really am. I have one of I guess, my very last endeavor that I've done is I recently created during the pandemic Siobhan Noelle and Co. And so that is actually a grief support firm in
mhm,
an unorthodox manner. I don't have a clinical background or anything to that nature for psychology or medical piece or anything, but I have the firsthand experience and I know what it takes to get through it. And I can't say that my journey has been orthodox at all. And so I know support is a major piece. I know prayer is a major piece. I know having that one on one person, someone that's been where you've been. I remember my next door neighbor when I was a child, her husband passed. And I remember one thing profoundly that she said, because everyone saw her spiraling into a depression and said that she should seek counsel. She said that she would seek counsel if we found her someone that was also a widow as well, that had walked in her shoes. And so that was very profound to me, and I never forgot that. And so now I offer that I am that person that has experienced firsthand and can relate to where a person has been with grief from a lot of different aspects. And so some of the things that we do is, now I don't shy away from the clinical piece by any means, because I've been to grief counseling therapy as well, and those have been very helpful. So when needed, I do bring in that piece as well. But I offer the unorthodox piece. For example, some things that we do is we'll do a group site visit. If you want to go to your loved one's gravesite and you may not have the courage, or you feel like you just need support and for whatever reason, we'll go together, whether it's me and you or a group of ladies or gentlemen, whomever, and we'll plan it out. You tell me what your concerns, your fears are, and I try to minimize or diminish them as best I can by
mhm,
providing that support.
mhm,
We'll do events like what I call morning massages and mimosas. So the act of morning, but also in the AM. We'll have a licensed massage therapist, and we'll have virgin mimosas. And
I
then
love
we also have group therapy. So we just do a lot of different things like
it.
that. And of course, you and I have partnered before, and I hope that we do that again soon to
Yes.
offer our good grief. Is your house in order?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It's so important. That piece that you mentioned is so important, regardless to the loss, the relationship of the loss. Support is so important. And so being able to offer that to people speaks volumes, because I certainly understand the value that it brings to others. And obviously, you understand the
Yeah.
value that it brings to others. And so it's a very selfless act, um, because you're not focused on you. Your focus is on the individuals that you are supporting. And
Yeah.
so it takes away from your life, your time, because you are trying to assist others, as they go through their loss.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So I think we're pretty amazing.
Thank you.
Um,
Thank you.
yes, pretty amazing women. Is that is there anything else you would like to share with the audience as a um, last piece of advice or encouragement, or anything that you can think of that you'd like to share with them?
Well, I hope that tonight you were able to take away that no matter how gloomy or much grief you're experiencing, because grief does come in different forms, not just death. And so, no matter how bad it looks, know that you can, know that you will. And as you would say, Miss Shenita, there's life after.
There
And
is.
I like something that I took away from the Steve Harvey show. He says that life is 10% of what happens to you, 90% of what you're going to do with it.
Mhm,
It's okay to have your moment. It's necessary actually,
mhm,
and cry, mourn, all of that. Those are healthy emotions.
mhm.
However, we just have to remember that we don't stay there.
Right.
Get back up, dust yourself off, and push through.
Push
Push
through.
through.
That is so important. I remember when Winston passed, my friend Jay White said to me, Neat, you can't stay in this place. I understand that you're there right now, but I cannot let you reside here. And sometimes you need someone to say those words to you so that
Yeah,
you will consciously prepare to move beyond where you are. And so
absolutely.
it's you're right. I mean, embrace that piece. If you're there, embrace it. And I tell people, don't deny yourself those emotions, but just also understand that you cannot stay in that
Yeah,
dark place, in that gloomy place, that there is life after the rain, and
right.
there's going to be rain in our lives. And so we make a choice every day to get up and live intentionally.
Yes.
So, so I'm excited. I just want to any upcoming events that you want to share, anything happening. I know I've shared your website there. If you want to mention anything that's coming up with the audience, feel free to do that.
Well, yes, thank you. I'll be providing media coverage this year again for the Chairman Turner's Ball in Clayton County. The event is October 9th. So if anyone's interested in getting tickets, please come on out. What else? Let's see. Oh, the BOA's Black Only Awards. That is an inaugural award ceremony that's going to be actually Thanksgiving weekend, the 27th. I'll be a presenter at that award, and I'm actually presenting the award to someone very near and dear to me. It's going to be a surprise, so hopefully we won't be up there crying.
Right,
But
right.
so I'm excited about that. I'll have all these flyers posted, so you guys can follow my page for more information on getting tickets. And then also a special thank you to ACHI Magazine. I'm actually not sure who nominated me, but I've been nominated for 3 awards. And
Awesome.
so that award ceremony is coming up soon. We actually have our first meeting for that awards show on the 11th this weekend. So stay tuned for those details.
Awesome. Is there anything that you can share with um, the audience about dealing with, and I'll just specifically say a widow because that's just where I am right now. I've lost my
Mhm.
parents as well, but I want to specifically hone in on our status of being a widow. Is there anything that you would say to a man that would be interested in a woman who's lost their husband? Any advice that you would give them?
Well, for me, it's a few different pieces. be okay with her talking about it. I find myself on dates talking about my husband, and
Hmm.
I think it takes one heck of a man to be okay with that.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I've been blessed to meet gentlemen that have totally been okay with it. Now, mind you, and I'm not sitting there talking all night just about that, but it comes up. So
Hmm.
that's one thing.
Hmm.
I mean, you can't be intimidated by someone that's no longer here. You know what I mean? So
Say
be
it.
confident and secure in yourself and know that if she, especially, is new to dating, this may be unfamiliar territories and she's spent her life going to dinner with someone else. And so if she mentions it, it's okay. Um, Also, for me, I would definitely say, like I mentioned earlier, you got to bring your A game because my late mister, he set the bar. And so I would say the same for other ladies. I would only hope and think that they had an amazing late husband as well. And so don't come half stepping. If you're not serious and for real, she's had enough grief. Don't bring her anymore.
I love it. Keep it moving.
Yes.
Move on down the road. Ease on, no, ease on down the road.
Yes,
Pass me.
absolutely.
You can miss me with all that. Yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah. So, but yes, those are great, great tips, and I hope that people really honed in to what you said. It is okay for a widow or a widower to share thoughts and precious moments of their beloved spouse. Doesn't mean that they don't have room to entertain someone new or that they're stuck in that place. That is just something that's relevant to them. And so you have to
Absolutely.
respect that place where they are. And as you said, don't be confident in yourself enough to know that that doesn't take anything from you because that
Right.
person is no longer here. I remember when my husband's previous wife passed away and we became friends before we became lovers. And during that friendship period, he would talk about Elaine often. And I would help him through that process and even purchase a book, The Shack, and we would read it together to help him get through that time. And he was just a friend. It did not bother me that he adored his wife. I appreciated that because if you had been with someone for 22 years married and 24 years together, that's significant. And
Yeah.
so it should have a special place in your heart. And no one should be able
Absolutely.
to take that away from you.
Absolutely.
And so I'm hoping one day God will bless me with an amazing man again who is so confident in himself and not intimidated by the journey that God has me on, that he will be willing to support me. And all I need to do is just walk out my journey because he's got the
Absolutely.
rest.
Yes.
So
I love it. Yes.
yes, so I am so grateful to have had you to share this moment with me this evening. It's always a pleasure, and I want to say that's your beautiful mom in the background on the
Yes.
picture.
So I have pictures of my mother and my late husband.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Yes. So I just appreciate how you love them and just really celebrate them, which is so important because they may be physically gone, but their legacy, their life, who they were, is still very present in our
Yes.
lives. So,
I'm
yeah.
rem- I'm reminded of them every day. And real quick, I share an interesting
Hmm.
story through my home purchase journey.
Hmm.
Again, I went into it, you know, wondering can, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
But, I actually told God, please forgive me for even doubting. But it's so interesting. So when I first got my first pre-approval, the young lady that answered the phone, her name was Naomi or is Naomi. That's my late grandmother's middle name. The lady that was the assistant to the loan officer, her name was Patricia. That is my mother's middle name. So I was telling the loan officer, I said, okay, y'all are gonna have to pick me up off the floor and get to the closing table. And someone with my husband's name walks in. And lo and behold, I went to see my first home. The listing agent was named Mr. Fleming. I kid you not. Um, and I actually didn't mention an additional recent death that I had. My father passed away. Now, I didn't know him actually, but at the end of the day, that's still my father. And so I, went through that grieving process as well. But I went under contract on my father's birthday.
Wow. So
So
many
it's just so
significant.
amazing. It's so interesting how things work out the way God shows us He's got us covered. And your family, your loved ones, they live on. They live in you.
Mm-hmm. So all of that was destined to work out in this
Yes,
phase of your
absolutely.
life the way that it did. So congratulations to you on the home, on the
Thank you.
awards, continued success on the journey of blessing and supporting others as they walk through this journey called life as well.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you again for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. And I look forward to us doing much more together again.
Yes, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. And stay tuned, and I'll be right back with you.
Okay.
Okay. So I hope that you guys were inspired by Siobhan, Noelle, Vonnie in the City. She has an amazing story. She's an amazing young lady. Um, so if there's anything that you desire to do in your life, hopefully you are going to go after whatever that is. I want to encourage you to pick up the pen, write the book, write the business plan, sing the song, try out for the team or whatever it is that you desire to do. So I enjoy bringing people on that will add value to your life or to inspire you. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for tuning in each week. I remember that I love you, but God loves you most and He loves you best. And please tune in for next week's show. Take care. Thank you for watching.